The rain hammered down like God's own judgment, turning the cracked sidewalks of Chicago's South Side into rivers of regret. I stumbled out of the back door of O'Malley's, my boss's voice still echoing in my ears. "You're done here, Oliver. Omegas like you, just trouble waiting to heat up." My heat. That's what it was. The suppressants had failed again, and now the world smelled like fire and desperation. Every alpha on the block turning their heads like wolves scenting blood. I collapsed against the alley wall, the cold brick biting through my thin shirt, and that's when I felt it, the pull, deep in my gut, like a hook yanking me toward something inevitable. Footsteps splashed through the puddles, deliberate and unhurried, and a shadow loomed over me, blotting out the sodium glow of the street lamp. "What's your name?" The voice was gravel and silk, commanding without effort, and when I looked up, those green eyes hit me like a freight train. Alpha, the kind that owned boardrooms and bent the city to his will. I tried to scramble back, but my legs buckled, the heat twisting inside me like a knife. "Oliver," I gasped, hating how it came out like a plea. He crouched down, his suit jacket Armani, probably brushing the filth without a care, and tilted my chin up with fingers that smelled of cedar and storm. "Oliver," he repeated, like he was tasting it, claiming it. "I'm Mason Blackwood. And from this moment, you're mine." That night blurred into a fever dream of his penthouse on the Gold Coast. All glass walls and city lights sprawling like a conquered kingdom below. He didn't touch me, not like that, not yet. Just carried me to the guest room, drew a bath scented with lavender to dull the edges of my heat, and sat on the edge of the tub, his tie loosened, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with muscle and faint scars from fights I didn't want to imagine. "Why me?" I whispered, sinking into the water, my body still thrumming with need I couldn't satisfy alone. "Because I saw you," he said simply, his gaze steady, not predatory like the others who'd leered and laughed. "And no one's seeing you anymore, are they?" I shook my head, the truth burning hotter than the heat. Abandoned by my pack at 18, disowned by parents who couldn't handle an Omega son in a world that still whispered about proper roles. Years scraping by in dives like O'Malley's, dodging grabs from drunk alphas, popping pills that barely worked. Ignored. Invisible. Until him. Mason stayed through the night, talking low about his world, the Blackwood Empire, real estate that swallowed half the loop, connections that made mayors sweat. He was 32, heir to a legacy built on steel and secrets, the kind of alpha who didn't need to growl to get what he wanted. By dawn, as the heat ebbed, he marked me, not with teeth, but with a collar, subtle silver chain with a pendant engraved, "OB, wear it," he said, fastening it around my neck. "It tells the world you're claimed." Life flipped overnight. No more back alley dumps. I moved into his Lakeshore Drive tower, a sprawling space of marble and mid-century modern lines that screamed old money with a modern edge. Mason's staff, discreet betas mostly, treated me like I belonged, cooking farm-to-table breakfasts I'd only read about in magazines. He took me to galas at the Art Institute, his hand firm on the small of my back, whispering jokes about the stuffed shirt donors that made me laugh until my sides hurt. "You're glowing, Oliver," he'd murmur against my ear, and damn if it didn't feel true. But the city had eyes, and Chicago's elite didn't forget an upstart Omega overnight. Whispers slithered through cocktail hours, Blackwood's pet project, slumming it with strays. I ignored them, buried in the warmth of Mason's bed, where he'd finally touched me. Slow, reverent, like I was something sacred instead of surplus. Our first time, under Egyptian cotton sheets with the lake glittering outside, he mapped every inch of me with lips and hands, drawing out gasps I didn't know I could make. Mine, he'd growl, but it was laced with wonder, not possession. Afterward, tangled in limbs and sweat, he'd trace the freckles on my shoulder. Tell me about before, so I did, in fragments. The pack in the suburbs, my father's beta rigidity clashing with my first heat at 16, panic, shame, exile. Bouncing between shelters and odd jobs, the nights I'd curled up in doorways, praying for the rut to pass without drawing predators. Mason listened, his chest a steady rumble under my cheek, and when I finished, he pulled me closer. No more of that. Not while I'm breathing. It was easy to believe him. Too easy. We built routines. Mornings with coffee on the balcony. Him in boxers reviewing contracts while I sketched. Urban scenes. Always with a lone figure in the foreground. Now less shadowed. Afternoons. He'd drag me to his office in the Aeon Center, letting me perch on his desk while he closed deals, his free hand absently stroking my thigh. Evenings were ours, jazz clubs in Wicker Park, where we'd dance close, his breath hot on my neck, or quiet nights cooking pasta from recipes his nana had smuggled over from Sicily generations back. One crisp October evening, as leaves turned the parks to fire, Mason surprised me with a drive up the lakefront. We parked near Montrose Point, the city a distant hum, and he spread a blanket under the stars. "I want to mark you properly," he said, voice rough with something deeper than lust. My heart stuttered, true claiming, the bond that tied souls in our world. Terrified me, the permanence, but his eyes, soft in the moonlight, promised safety. "Only if you want it, Oliver. But I need you to know, you're not abandoned anymore." I nodded, tears pricking, and we made love there on the lakeshore, waves crashing like applause. His teeth grazed my shoulder, not breaking skin yet, but the intent hung heavy. As we drove back, his hand in mine over the gearshift, I thought maybe this was it, the life I dreamed of in those cold alleys. But dreams in Chicago have a way of cracking under pressure. The first fracture came at a fundraiser for the Omega Rights Coalition. Ironic, right? Mason was the keynote, all charisma and calls for equality, while I mingled awkwardly in a borrowed Tom Ford suit. That's when I saw him, Ethan Hale, Mason's old college roommate, now a slick lawyer with a smile like a switchblade. Beta, but the kind who played both sides. "Oliver, right?" he said, clinking glasses, his eyes raking me over. "Heard you're the flavor of the month. Careful, blackwoods burn bright, but they leave ashes." I brushed it off, but the seed lodged. Later, in the limo home, Mason pulled me onto his lap, nuzzling my neck. "You okay?" "You went quiet. Just tired." I lied, hating the doubt creeping in. Ethan was nothing, a ghost from Mason's past. But ghosts have long memories, and mine was already too full of them. Weeks blurred into a haze of bliss laced with unease. Mason's world pulled me deeper. Holidays at his family's estate in Door County, where his mother, a formidable alpha widow, eyed me with cautious approval over turkey dinners. "He needs someone real," she told me one night by the fire, her voice whiskey rough. "Not the vultures circling." I nodded, warmed by the implication I might be that someone. But the vultures were circling. Holiday cards from Ethan's firm arrived. Innocuous invites to networking events. Mason tossed them, but I caught the tension in his jaw. Old drama, he said dismissively. College shit. I didn't press. Too afraid of shattering the fragile normalcy. New Year's Eve sealed it, or so I thought. Fireworks over the river, his arms around me on the balcony, countdown echoing from the streets below. To us, he toasted with champagne, and when the clock struck, he kissed me like the world was ending, deep, claiming, sparks igniting low in my belly. We tumbled inside, shedding clothes in a trail to the bedroom, his body over mine a map of strength and surrender. That night, under the strobe of distant explosions, he bit down, gentle, but sure, the bond snapping into place like a key turning in a lock. Pain bloomed into ecstasy, our scents mingling, alpha and omega woven tight. I woke to sunlight and his note on the pillow. Board meeting. Love you. Breakfast in the kitchen. Love. The word hit like sunlight after storm. I traced it with my finger, the bond humming warm in my veins, and for the first time, the city outside felt like home. Spring thawed Chicago's grip, turning the streets into a symphony of horns and hope. The bond changed everything, subtle, like gravity shifting. I felt Mason before I saw him. A tug in my chest when he was late from a site visit, a flush when he walked through the door, cedar scent wrapping around me like a promise. We were inseparable, him carving out space in his empire for me, consulting on omega-friendly policies for his developments, me finally enrolling in night classes at Columbia College for graphic design. Build your own name, he'd say, kissing my temple. But no, it's safe with mine. Our first real test came in April, at the annual Blackwood Gala. The Palmer House ballroom dripped opulence, crystal chandeliers casting rainbows over tuxedos and gowns, string quartets weaving through laughter like silk threads. I stood at Mason's side, his hand possessive on my waist, introducing me as my partner, Oliver, partner, not pet. The word landed like a gauntlet, and heads turned, some with nods, others with narrowed eyes. Ethan was there, of course, schmoozing a cluster of investors, his laugh cutting through the din. When our paths crossed near the bar, he raised his glass. Mason, old man, and Oliver radiating that fresh-claimed glow. Congrats. His tone dripped honey over venom, but Mason's arm tightened around me, a low rumble vibrating through his chest. Hail. Still peddling influence like it's candy. The air crackled, old rivalries sparking. Ethan smirked, eyes flicking to me. Just looking out for friends. Heard about that little dust-up with the city council, zoning for your Southside project. Tough break. Mason's jaw clenched, but he played it cool, steering us away. Later, over foie gras canapes, he explained, Ethan's firm reps the opposition. Always has. Thinks he can leverage our history for leverage now. History. The word hung, and that night, as we rode the elevator up, pressed. What history? Mason sighed, loosening his cufflinks. Frat brothers at Northwestern. He was the charmer, I was the muscle. Slept together once, drunk, stupid. He wanted more, I didn't. Been thorns ever since. My stomach twisted, not jealousy. Exactly. But the reminder that Mason's life predated me, full of shadows I hadn't lit. And now? I asked, voice small. He cupped my face. thumbs brushing my cheeks. Now, you're the only one who matters. We proved it in the shower. Steam curling around us like secrets. His hands soaping my back. Lips trailing down my spine. The bond amplified everything, his touch electric. My responses raw. I love you, he whispered against my skin, and I echoed it, the words sealing us tighter. But cracks spiderwebbed. My classes ramped up, and Mason's projects ballooned. A massive redevelopment in Pilsen, blending luxury condos with affordable Omega housing. It was his passion project, a nod to the inequalities he'd railed against since his sister's heat scandal years back. I was proud, sketching logos for the initiative, but the hours stretched. Late nights, I'd wait up with takeout from Giordano's, only for him to crash in exhausted. One such night, May bleeding into June, I dozed on the couch to the murmur of his voice on the phone, low, urgent. No, Ethan, that's not how this plays. Fine, meet me tomorrow. But keep it clean. I pretended sleep when he hung up, his kiss lingering on my forehead like an apology. The meeting was at a neutral spot, the Gauge, a loop pub with dark wood and craft beers. Mason insisted I come. Transparency. Babe. Ethan arrived in a Brooks Brothers suit, all polished beta charm, but his eyes sharpened on me. Brought the entourage. Cute. We ordered IPA for them, cider for me and Dove in. The deal was simple. Ethan's clients wanted concessions on the Pilsen build. Mason needed zoning variances. Handshakes and backslaps masked the undercurrent, but as we wrapped, Ethan leaned in. For old time's sake, Mason, don't let the pretty Omega distract you from the sharks. Mason's laugh was steel. Worry about your own pond. Hail. But driving home, the bond thrummed with his unease. Faint discord. He's bluffing, Mason said, more to himself. I squeezed his hand. We've got this. Summer hit like a heat wave, mirroring the one building between us. Picnics in Millennium Park. His head in my lap while I read Kerouac aloud. Stolen weekends in Saugatuck. Dunes and dunes of sand where we'd fuck under the stars. Bond singing. He proposed in July. Casual over rooftop barbecue. Kneeling with a ring that caught the sunset. Black diamonds set in platinum. Marry me, Oliver. Make this forever official. Tears blurred my yes. And we celebrated with neighbors' fireworks. Bodies slick and urgent on the deck. But betrayal brews in the quiet hours. August brought the council vote on Pilsen, a nail-biter. Mason paced the living room, phone glued to his ear, while I brewed coffee strong enough to wake the dead. The call came at dawn. Approved, but with writers, environmental reviews that could drag it out. Sabotage, he snarled, hurling his mug against the wall. Shards flew, I flinched. Ethan, he spat. That slimy fuck. I cleaned up, heart pounding, not from fear, but the rage in him, a side I'd glimpsed but never bathed in. We'll fight it, I said, pulling him close. He buried his face in my neck, inhaling my scent like a lifeline. I know. God, Oliver, you're my anchor. We made love on the floor amid the mess, desperate and devouring, reclaiming control. The fight escalated. Private investigators leaked emails. Mason's team uncovered Ethan's fingerprints, bribes disguised as consulting fees. A confrontation brewed. Mason invited him to the tower to settle this like men. I begged to be there, he refused. Stay out of it, love. He's poison. I didn't listen. Slipped into the study adjacent. Door cracked. Voices rose, Ethan's oily. Come on, Blackwood. Admit it, you're in over your head with the stray. I can fix this. For a price. Mason's growl. The price is your resignation from that firm. Or I bury you. Laughter. Sharp. Bury me? With what? That Omega of yours? I know his secrets. Mason. The pack that tossed him. Still whispers he'll drag you down. The bond flared pain. Mine and his mingling. I burst in. Chair scraping. Leave him alone. Ethan's eyes lit with triumph. Ah, the hero. Oliver, right? Or should I say, the exile from Willow Creek. My blood iced. How? Mason lunged, but I stepped between. Enough. We're done here. Ethan left smirking, but the damage lingered. That night, Mason held me as I spilled the full ugly truth of Willow Creek. The forced suppressants, the beatings disguised as discipline, my desperate flight at 18. They called me broken, I sobbed. He rocked me, vows of vengeance on his lips. Not broken. Perfect. Mine. Fall crept in, leaves carpeting the parks in gold and rot. The Pilsen project stalled, lawsuits flying. Mason grew distant, buried in war rooms, coming home smelling of stress sweat and scotch. Our bond strained, conversations clipped. I miss you, I'd whisper in bed, hand on his chest. He'd pull me close, but sleep evaded us both. Then, the gut punch. A dossier on my doorstep, anonymous. Photos, me in alleys, heats unmanaged. Transcripts from Willow Creek, painting me as unstable. A note, he's using you to look good. Walk away, or we expose it all. My hands shook. The bond screamed betrayal. Not Mason's, but the world's reminder I was still the abandoned one. I confronted him at midnight, papers splayed on the kitchen island. Is this you? Some PR stunt. His face crumpled. Oliver. No, God. No. He reached. I recoiled. Then who? Ethan? Worse. My board, he admitted, voice breaking. Some pushed for it. Clean up the image. I shut it down. Fired them, but the seed of doubt flowered into thorns. Am I just an image? Mason, your redemption arc, he roared, slamming the counter. You're everything. Why can't you see that? The fight spilled words like shrapnel, accusations of control, fears of unworthiness. I stormed out, collar choking me, into the autumn chill. Wandered the mag mile, neon blurring through tears, until my phone buzzed. Mason. Come home. Please. I did. Dawn breaking gray. We talked, raw, hours bleeding into coffee and confessions. I claimed your name because I saw my own ghosts in you, he said. Abandoned too, in ways. Father's death. The empire's weight. You make it bearable. Forgiveness came slow, but it came, sealed with touches gentle as rain. Winter loomed, promising snow and second chances. But Chicago winters bury secrets deep, and Ethan's last play was buried deepest. December draped the city in white veils, muffling the chaos below. Our bond mended, stronger for the scars, therapy sessions in a Gold Coast high-rise, where a soft-spoken beta counselor unpacked our fears like fragile ornaments. Mason opened up about his father's shadow, the alpha who'd ruled with iron fists and whiskey breath, leaving a legacy of loneliness. I never wanted to be him, he'd say, hand in mine. But power, it twists you. I'd share sketches from class, urban vignettes infused with our story, alleys blooming into gardens under determined hands. The holidays healed us further. Christmas at Door County. His mother's embrace warmer, his niece, a tiny omega with pigtails, climbing into my lap for stories of city wolves who found their packs. Mason watched, green eyes soft, and later by the lake, skates crunching ice, he whispered, "This is family. Our family." We rang in the new year there, fireworks over frozen waves. His claiming bite renewed in the cabin's glow, teeth on shoulder, bond flaring like hearthfire. Back in the city, Pilsen thawed too. With Ethan's firm sidelined by Mason's countersuit, variances cleared. Groundbreaking in January. Hard hats and ribbon cuttings. Me at Mason's side snapping photos for the press. To new beginnings, he toasted with the crew, arm around me, and the workers, alphas, betas, omegas cheered, sense mingling in unity. It felt human, not hierarchical, a quiet rebellion against the old ways. But romance thrives in stolen moments, and we stole plenty. Valentines at Alinea, molecular gastronomy melting on tongues like our kisses. Lazy Sundays in bed, him tracing my collarbone while I planned our wedding, small, on the dunes, with lake winds as witnesses. Spring, I said. Cherry blossoms in the parks. He grinned, that boyish flash amid the stubble. Whatever you want, omega mine. Yet, under the idol, unease simmered. Ethan's silence was too complete. No barbs, no leaks. Mason dismissed it. He's licking wounds. I wanted to believe, but the bond whispered caution, a faint dissonance like off-key notes. February's full moon brought my heat, synced now to Mason's ruts, a biological poetry that floored us both. The tower became our sanctuary. Blinds drawn, phones silenced, days lost in a haze of skin and scent. He was insatiable, tender, mapping me with mouths and murmurs, beautiful a mantra against my thighs. I arched into him, nails raking his back, the bond a live wire. "Love you," I gasped during one peek, and his response was a growl. Forever. Emerging days later, sated and sore, we laughed over delivery tie, plotting escape, a weekend in New Orleans for Mardi Gras, beads and beignets. But en route, at O'Hare, reality intruded. A text from an unknown, "Ask your alpha about the Hale merger." My stomach dropped. Merger? Mason's empire didn't merge. It acquired. I waited until the plane, bourbon warming my veins. Ethan's firm. Any talks? His brow furrowed. Old proposal. Why? I showed the text. Color drained from his face. It's nothing. Leverage play from last year. But the lie tasted bitter on the bond, sharp as betrayal's edge. New Orleans blurred into suspicion. Jazz funerals and crawfish boils. His hand in mine through French Quarter crowds. But my mind spun. That night, in our Garden District B&B, I pushed. "Tell me the truth, Mason," he sighed, sitting on the four-poster's edge. Ethan approached about partnering, his connections for my capital. I said no. End of story. Then why the text? His eyes darkened. Someone stirring shit. Probably him. We made up fiercely, bodies slamming against antique walls, but doubt lingered like humidity. March bloomed fractious. Wedding plans ramped, invitations etched on linen, an officiant who specialized in interpack bonds. My Willow Creek ghosts resurfaced. A letter from my brother, beta straight-laced. Come home. This city's poison. I burned it, but the pull tugged. The climax brewed at a pre-wedding dinner, intimate at RPM steak, fillets and Bordeaux with closest allies. Laughter flowed until Ethan crashed it, uninvited, champagne flute in hand. Surprise! Couldn't miss the lovebirds. Mason rose, fury coiling. Get out! But Ethan waved a folder, thick as accusation. Not until you see this. Papers slid across, emails, timestamps damning. Mason's signature on a preliminary merger doc, dated post our fight, when I'd stormed out. Contingency, Ethan purred. In case the Omega proved problematic. The room froze. My chair scraped back, Bond screaming agony. Mason, my voice cracked. He snatched the folder, scanning, face ashen. This is forged. I never, Ethan laughed. Ask your lawyers. Or better, ask why he met me alone that night. The betrayal landed like a gut punch. Not just the lie, but the isolation. He'd shut me out, handled it like men, leaving me to doubt alone. I fled the restaurant, heels clicking frantic on Michigan Avenue, spring rain starting soft then savage. Mason caught me blocks away, under a marquee, soaked and shaking. Oliver, listen. No! I shoved him, tears mixing with rain. You met him. After everything, you kept secrets. His hands gripped my arms, desperate. To protect us, the merger was dead. He was bluffing for dirt on you, Willow Creek leverage. I ended it, threatened exposure. The bond ward, truth in his scent, pain in his eyes. But you didn't tell me. I'm your partner, not porcelain. He pulled me close, rain sheeting between us. I was wrong. Scared of losing you to the ugliness. We stood there, city pulsing around, until exhaustion won. Back home, we stripped layers literal, then emotional. I can't lose you, he whispered, tracing the claiming scar. Then don't hide, I replied, and we sealed it slow, reclaiming trust inch by inch. But Ethan wasn't done. April's cherry blossoms mocked us as subpoenas landed, Mason's board fracturing, leaks painting him as the manipulator, me as the gold-digging Omega. Protests at Pilsen, Blackwood lies, scrawled on signs. Our wedding loomed, but shadows lengthened. The night before the rehearsal, I found Mason in his study, head in hands, a half-empty scotch beside. It's over, he muttered. The project's tanking, boards revolting. Ethan's got them spooked. I knelt before him, hands on knees. Fight. With me. His eyes met mine. Broken glass. You're all I have left worth fighting for. We rallied lawyers, PR spins, me testifying at hearings, voice steady for the Omegas who'd never had a voice. This isn't about power, I said to the council, bond thrumming with Mason's pride. It's about home. Votes swung. The project stabilized. Ethan's end came swift. Embezzlement unearthed. His fees a slush fund. Arrested at dawn. Cuffs glinting like justice. Mason watched the news, arm around me. Karma's a bitch. But victory tasted bittersweet, trust's fragility exposed. As May dawned, we stood on the dunes, vows exchanged under gulls' cries. I claim you, Oliver, in all ways, flaws and fire. Rings slid on, bond eternal. The city waited, but for now, we were whole. Yet, humanistic truths whisper, love doesn't erase scars, it teaches us to bear them. And in Chicago's relentless pulse, we learned to dance with the shadows. Summer scorched the Midwest, turning Lake Michigan to a mirror of blue fire. Our honeymoon was Michigan's Upper Peninsula, cabins and cascades, away from Empire's grind. Days hiking Porcupine Mountains, nights in flannel sheets, his body a familiar map under star-pricked skies. The bond settled deeper, a constant hum of contentment, but conversations turned introspective. What now? I'd ask, head on his chest. Build, he'd reply. Not just towers, us. Back in the city, life layered on. Pilsen rose. First units leased to young Omegas, community centers humming with art classes I taught pro bono. Mason mentored, suits swapped for jeans at build sites, his laugh booming over hammers. We adopted a rescue mutt, half-lab, all loyalty naming him Jax, who trailed us like a furry shadow. But autumn winds carried omens. Ethan's trial loomed, a media circus in the Dirksen courthouse. Mason testified, cool, cutting, exposing the web of deceit. He preyed on vulnerabilities, Mason said, gaze flicking to me in the gallery. Mine included. The jury convicted. Ethan sentenced to 5 years, his empire crumbling. Victory laps in dive bars followed, toasts to fallen foes. But I saw the toll, Mason's nightmares, waking sweat slick, murmuring apologies to ghosts. October's harvest moon synced another heat rut cycle, fiercer now, laced with post-trial adrenaline. The tower echoed with our abandon, furniture appended, scents saturating silk. He was primal, me yielding bites and bruises badges of belonging. Never again, he vowed post-climax, fingers laced in mine. No secrets, November chilled, Thanksgiving at Door County a bomb. His mother pulled me aside post-pie, I sharp. He's lighter with you, Oliver. But watch, power's addictive. I nodded, the warning lodging. Holidays passed in glow, lights on the Mag Mile, Jax's first snow romp. December's solstice brought surprise. A positive test, my hand trembling over the stick. Pregnant. Omegaverse biology, bond amplified, turning possibility to fact. Mason's reaction, stunned silence, then tears, lifting me in a spin. Our pup, doctor visits confirmed, healthy, due summer. The city softened around us. Announcements met with cheers, Pilsen tenants knitting booties. But joy's shadow is fear. Winter deepened. My nausea hit hard, confining me to the penthouse. Mason hovered, canceling meetings, but board pressures mounted, downturn whispers, competitors circling. It's fine, he'd assure, kissing my temple. Focus on you. January's ice storm trapped us inside, perfect for nesting. Crib assembly fumbles, paint swatches for the nursery, sage green, hopeful. We dreamed aloud. The pup's first steps on lakefront paths, family packs reformed. Intimacy shifted, gentler, his hands cradling my slight swell, lips reverent. You're creating life, he'd marvel. My miracle, February thawed cracks. An anonymous email, board minutes, Mason's name on a contingency clause, divest if personal distractions impacted viability. Distractions. Me. The pup. Bond flared panic. I confronted over breakfast. Is this still about image? He blanched. Ancient history, pre-trial paranoia. I vetoed it, but doubt festered, old wounds reopening. The betrayal crested in March, spring equinox mocking renewal. A leak, tabloid splash, Blackwood's baby bluff, Omega exiles sob story, Willow Creek ties dredged, my instability twisted into scandal. Protests reignited at Pilsen, investors bolted. Mason raged in the study, phone shattering against wall. I'll sue them all. I retreated to the nursery, Jack's at my feet, tears hot. The Bond drowned in his fury, mine a quiet terror. That night, he came to me, defeated. The board's forcing a vote, step down or sell. The empire, his soul. Because of me, my voice broke. He knelt, hands on my belly. Never. But I can't drag you through this. We fought. Not with words, but silence. Days bleeding cold. Therapy stalled. The counselor urged space. I walked the lakefront alone. Wind whipping. Pup kicking defiant. Abandoned again? No. Mason's love was real, but the world conspired. Climax shattered on a rainy April eve. Emergency board meeting. I insisted on attending, belly rounding under my coat. The conference room gleamed sterile, suits like sharks. They laid it out. Divest Pilsen. Rebrand family image. Or oust. Mason stood. Voice thunder. This isn't business. It's bigotry. Oliver's my heart. The project's too. A director sneered. Heart or liability? That Omega's baggage sinks us. I rose. Hand on swell. Baggage? I've built with him, taught your tenants. Voiced the voiceless. Judge me. Fine, but not my child. Gasps rippled. Mason's pride surged through Bond. Stealing me. Ethan's ghost lingered. A deposition video played. Him grinning from jail. Blackwood's soft spot? The stray and the spawn. Chaos erupted, accusations. Walkouts. Mason ended it. Resignations on my desk by morning. Or face audits. The room emptied. We stood alone. His arms around us both. You were magnificent, he breathed. Fallout cascaded. Half the board fled. Loyalists stayed. Pilsen pivoted, community buy-in. Crowdfunding. Media spun redemption. Alphas stand for love, but scars ached. Trust's fragility. Power's price. May bloomed our pup. A boy. Dark-haired like me. Green-eyed like his dad. We named him Theo. Gift of God. Hospital room soft with beeps and coos. Mason's kiss on my brow eternal. We made it. Summer healed. Theo's gurgle soundtrack to lake breezes. But humanistic wisdom, triumph tempers, doesn't erase. Betrayals taught resilience. Love is fierce humanity. Autumn painted Chicago in amber and rust. Theo's first leaves crunching under the stroller on Lincoln Park paths. Fatherhood reshaped us. Mason trading dawn patrols for midnight feedings. His empire leaner but truer. Pilsen a beacon of mixed sense and laughter. I freelanced designs. Logos for Omega startups. Collar traded for a wedding band etched with our initials. The Bond thrummed paternal now. a web ensnaring 3. But winter's whisper warnings. November's chill brought Ethan's appeal, parole hearing, shadows of old vendettas. Mason bristled over news feeds, but I touched his arm. Let karma close the book. He nodded, but vigilance lingered. Guards on the tower, metaphorical and real. Holidays encircled us. Door County feasts. Theo's chubby fists in pie crust. His Nana's tales of Sicilian alphas who tame storms with song. We danced in the kitchen. Pup between us. Mason's hum low against my neck. This is the life, he murmured. Intimacy evolved post-Theo. Bodies rediscovering in quiet hours. His hands tracing stretch marks like constellations. More beautiful, he'd say, and believe it, bond affirming. January's snow muffled a curveball. My heat returned, faint but insistent, biology reclaiming postpartum. Panic flickered, Mason's rut synced. But Theo. We navigated with help. His mother babysitting while we escaped to the peninsula again. Cabin fires roaring. It was reclaiming wild, whispered vows renewed in steam and sighs. Still mine? He'd ask, buried deep. Always, I'd gasp. The world reduced to us. Spring greened with Theo's first steps, toddling into Mason's legs at the park, giggles echoing off harbors. Pilsen thrived. Ribbon cuttings for the center, my murals adorning walls, alleys to avenues, abandoned to anchored. Recognition came, a local award for community design, Mason's chest swelling prouder than any deal. Yet, conflict coils eternal. June's solstice broodstorm. A Willow Creek envoy at our door. My father aged, alpha stoop-shouldered. Son, he graveled, eyes on Theo. Pack needs healing. Come home. The air thickened, old scents clashing. Mason loomed, protective. I stepped forward. Home's here. But talk. The conversation stretched hours, porch tea cooling. Truths unearthed. Father's confessions. Shame, not hate. Driving exile. Pack fractures in my wake. We were wrong. Forgiveness, partial, humanity's grace measured. Visit Theo, I allowed. But my name's Blackwood now. He left humbled. A bridge half mended. Summer peaked in heatwave haze. Theo splashing fountains while we picnicked. But betrayal's echo resounded. A bored holdout, ex-Ethan ally, leaked Theo's photos, paparazzi bait. Headlines twisted. Blackwood heir? Omega dynasty or debacle? Fury boiled. Mason sued. But the invasion stung our pup. Weaponized. Climax crested on a stormy July night. The holdout confronted at a gala. Metropolitan Club. Chandeliers swinging like pendulums. Your freak show's over, he slurred. Breath scotch sour. Mason's fist connected, crack echoing. Blood on marble. Chaos. Security swarming. Flashes popping. I pulled him back. Bond a torrent of rage and regret. Not like this, I pleaded. Headlines screamed next day. Alpha brawl. Blackwood unhinged. Empire quaked. Stock dips. Whispers of instability. Mason withdrew. Brooding in the study. Scotch his companion. I've failed you, he confessed one dawn. Theo asleep between us. The violence. My father's ghost. I cupped his face. No. It's human, flawed, fierce. We fight smarter. Redemption unfolded deliberate. Public apology. Therapy amplified. Board purged final. Pilsen became manifesto, open forums, Omega-led initiatives. Media pivoted, from fists to futures. Ethan's appeal denied, his web unraveled fully. Fall deepened bonds. Theo's second birthday, park party. Jack's chasing balloons, laughter a chorus. My father attended, tentative, holding his grandson, eyes wet. Proud, he muttered. Healing, humanistic, not erasure, but evolution. Winter wrapped us, snow blanketing scars. New Year's on the balcony, Theo bundled, fireworks blooming. Mason pulled me close, pup between. From abandoned to this, he marveled. Your name claimed mine, our story, no fairy tale, dramatic gales, emotional tempests, romantic anchors amid humanistic truths. Love betrays, but redeems, power crushes, but yields to vulnerability. In Chicago's heart, we endured not perfect, but profoundly ours. Ignored once, now etched eternal, Oliver Blackwood, loved, whole. And as the city breathed below, I knew Alpha's fall, Omega's rise, but together we rewrite the stars.